Daf Tes Zayin Amud Beis. We left off at the bottom of Tes Zayin Amud Aleph, about 9 lines from the bottom of the page. At the right off the 2 dots at the end of the line, the Gemara is going to spend some time discussing the size of the Aron and the size of the Luchos and how the Luchos fit into the Aron and what else was there, namely the Sefer Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu to put inside. And we're going to see 2 shitas. As a general introduction, there are 2 ways of calculating an amma mid'oraisa, meaning, strictly speaking, there are 3 sizes of amma, but we're going to be discussing 2. One is 6 tvachim, meaning 6 handbreadths, and one is 5 tvachim. And we're going to say machlokas which tvachim we are using, the Torah is using, when measuring the amma. Well, which size amma, 5 or 6 tvachim, when talking about the Aron. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, Ba'ama shel shisha tvachim haya Aron also. The Aron was made with the measurements of the Aron were ammas that were each 6 tvachim. Tanan, man Tana ba'ama shel shisha tvachim. Who is the Tana that holds that this is an amma of 6 tvachim? Remeir, this is the opinion of Remeir. Ditnan, Remeir says, Remeir, Oimer, Kol ha'amas hayu bebeinanis. All of the amas of the Beis Hamikdash were medium-sized ones, meaning 6 tvachim, because the larger one than that is 6 and an 8 tvachim, but the 2 that we're going to be talking about is 6 and 5. Rabbi Meir holds that it's 6 tvachim. Rabbi Yehuda says, amas bebinyan shisha. The amas of the Beis of the Mishkan itself were 6 tvachim, but shel kelim chamisha. But the amas of the kelim were only 5 tvachim, meaning that they were 1 tefach shorter in terms of the size of that amma. Says the Gemara, al date de Reb Meir, according to Reb Meir, do amar ba'ama shel shis tvachim haya Aron asoi, who is of the opinion that the Aron was made with 6 tvachim. Archa shel Aron chamisha asa tvachim. The length of the Aron comes out to be 15 tvachim. How do you get 15 tvachim? The pasuk says, "Amasayim v'chetzi arkai." It was 2.5 amos in length. What does that mean? Amasa ashisha. The first amma is going to be 6 tvachim. Amasa ashisha, and the second amma is 6 tvachim. Palgus amma telasa, and half of the third amma, which gives you 3 tvachim. Hence, you are going to be getting 15 tvachim. 6 plus 6 plus 3. That is the size, the length of the Aron. And then, says Rabbi Yochanan, according to Remeir, how did the luchos fit into the Aron? V'arba luchos hayba. There were 4 luchos that were in that Aron. Now, we saw machlokas, whether the shivrei luchos were in the Aron or not in the Aron. In the entirety of our discussion today, there is only one Aron that contains both the luchos and the shivrei luchos. That is both the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. That is the working assumption of the Gemara from now on. Says the Gemara, "Va'arba luchos hayba." There were 4 luchos, meaning 2 sets of luchos. Shnayim shleim, 2 that were fully intact, or shnayim shvurim, and 2 that were broken. And those 2 broken ones, the assumption is, were exactly the same size, dimensions. All of the pieces were there, so it took up the same amount of space. It seems to be, and we'll see that it was reconfigured exactly. It wasn't like a pile of shards. It was reconfigured to be the luchos, reassembled. So you have 2 broken ones and 2 fixed ones. The pasuk says, "Asher shibarta," the luchos that you broke, Moshe Rabbeinu, that you broke, for sometime ba'aron you will put it in the Aron. Haluchos hayu kol echad ve'echad shisha tvachim. Each of the luchos was 6 tvachim long. Rochba shloisha. And the width was 3 tvachim, so it was 6 by 3. V'sein rachban shel luchos le'arka shel Aron. And if you line up horizontally, meaning lying down, each of the luchos, one next to the next to the next to the next, what comes out is v'sein rachban shel luchos le'arka shel Aron. If you put the luchos along the length of the Aron, what comes out is nishtar sham shlosh tvachim. You are going to be left with 3 tvachim, because what you have is 3 tvachim, 3 tvachim, 3 tvachim, 3 tvachim, and which would leave you with each one of the luchos. We said is each one of the Aron itself, we said, is 15 tvachim, and each of the luchos is 3 tvachim, which means that you are going to have a delta between 12 tvachim and 15 tvachim. That is going to be your extra 3 tvachim, according to Rabbi Yochanan explaining Reb Meir. Says the Gemara, turning over the page, says the Gemara on Tes Zayin Beis, v'sein mehem chatzi tefach l'chol kosa. And then from these 3 tvachim that are left over along the length of the Aron, you take half a tefach on each side, which is the wall of the Aron, because the Aron was 15 tvachim on the outside, but the Aron itself took space. How much space did the box of the Aron take? Half a tefach on either side, meaning a full tefach in total. It comes out that there was 2 tvachim left to put in the Sefer Torah. So there were 2 tvachim left that Moshe Rabbeinu was instructed to put the Sefer Torah inside. Says the Gemara, how wide was the Aron? So we said that the Aron was 15 tvachim long. How wide was it? The width of the Aron, going the other dimension, was 9 tvachim. The pasuk says, "Amma v'chetzi rachbai," an amma and a half in its width, and amsa ashisha, ashisa, that an amma is 6 tvachim long, and palgus amma telasa, and half of an amma is 3 tvachim, gives you 9. Good. V'arba luchos haybai, and the 4 luchos were in it. How do we now calculate the luchos? Shnaim shleimim, the 2 whole luchos are shnaim shurim, and the 2 broken luchos. The pasuk says, "Asher shivat v'sam t'mar." You put them, the broken ones, you can put an ar. Haluchos hayu kol echad ve'echad arkan shisha tvachim, and each one of them was the length of 6 tvachim. V'rachban, and the width of shlosh tvachim, and 3 tvachim wide. Tein arkan shel luchos le'rachba shel Aron, and when you establish the length of the luchos parallel to the width of the Aron, which is 9 tvachim, what comes out is nishtar sham shlosh tvachim. You are going to have 3 tvachim remaining. Chatzi tefach mikan lekasel, half a tefach on one side because of the box. V'chatzi tefach mikan lekasel, and half a tefach on the other side for the width of the actual box of the Aron. And you then are left with 2 tvachim in order to be able to, literally means to have control over the place that the Sefer Torah is, because the Sefer Torah was exactly 2 tvachim wide, so you needed a tefach on either side in order to wedge it in and out. You needed that space in order to be able to grab it on either side. So you had 2 tvachim, one on either side, that you would be able to use to put the Aron in, to put the Sefer Torah in, or take the Sefer Torah out. When would we ever take it in or out? So it was taken in and out on Yom Kippur. That was what the Kohen Gadol read. At least it seems to be according to this shita, that it needed to be taken in and out for the Kohen Gadol, and for the once a year the Melech Beis David. Once every 7 years, the Melech Beis David would read from that Sefer Torah for Hakel. Okay. So far is Rabbi Yochanan explaining the shita of Reb Meir. Now it says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Lakish says, "Ba'ama bas chamisha tvachim ha'aron." No, the Aron was not 6 tvachim; it was 5 tvachim. I mean, we're dealing with an amma that is 5 tvachim, which means that we're going to have to recalculate all of these dimensions to make sense of the size of the Aron and the luchos, etc. How does Rabbi Shimon Lakish calculate? Says the Gemara, it was 5 tvachim in those amas. Man tana ba'ama bas chamish tvachim. Who is the tana that holds like this? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, meaning the Rabbi Shimon Lakish is now explaining the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda, whereas Rabbi Yochanan was explaining Rabbi Meir. This is the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. Ditnan taman, because we learned in a Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda says, amas habinyan shisha. The amma of the buildings were 5. This is what we said before. Amas habinyan shisha. The amma of the building of the Mishkan was 6 tvachim. Shel kelim chamisha, but the kelim were 5. Were 5 tvachim. Ve'hahan Aron klihu, and the Aron is not part of the building. The Aron is a kli. It's a utensil, meaning It's not a building item. It is one of the kelim, considered part of the not part of the structure, but part of the collection of kelim in the Mishkan. Therefore, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, he is of the opinion that the Aron was made with an amma of only 5 tvachim, which means shneim asar tefachum echza. It comes out that the Aron's length was not 15 tvachim, but 12 and a half tvachim, as the pasuk says, "Amasayim v'chetzi arka v'ama chamsha ve'amsa chamsha ve'upalgus amsa trei upalig." Comes out that you have 5 and 5 and 2.5. That is 12 and a half. Ve'arba luchas hayu, there were 4 luchas that were inside of it. Shnaim shleimim u'shnaim shvurim. 2 broken luchas and 2 whole luchas. Dirshu the pasuk says, that you broke them, you put it in the iron. Good. Same argument. Now, how does it fit? Va'luchas, everybody agrees on the size of the luchas. So how are we going to fit everything? Va'luchas haya kol echad ve'echad orcha shish tvachim. The luchas were each 6 tvachim long. Ve'rachman shlosh tvachim, and 3 tvachim wide. Which means when you put the 2 luchas together, what you got was a square of 6 by 6 for each of them, right? For each of the sets. Tain rachman shel luchas d'orcha shel aron. If you put the width of the luchas, which is 12 tvachim, inside of the aron, which is 12 and a half tvachim, rachman shel luchas l'orcha shel aron. What comes out is that you have half a tefach left. And according to Rabbi Shimon Lakish explained Rabbi Yehuda, the width of the actual box of the aron was not a tefach, was not a chatzi tefach. Instead, it was an etzba, which is considerably smaller. He understood that the box, the actual box of the aron, was much thinner. It was only an etzba in dimension. Now, says the Gemara, okay, Rachba shel aron shisha tvachim, carrying on with the size of the aron, according to Rabbi Shimon explained Rabbi Yehuda, Rachba shel aron shiva tvachim echza, comes out according to Rabbi Shimon Lakish explained Rabbi Yehuda, that the width of the aron is 7.5 tvachim. Dirshu the pasuk says, "Va'ama v'chetzi rachba," and am and a half is its width, and amsa chamsha. Upalgus amsa trei upalig. You have an amma being 5 tvachim and half an amma being 2.5 tvachim, which comes out to 7.5 tvachim in total. Ve'arba luchas hayu, there were 4 luchas inside. Shnaim shneim, 2 that were whole. Shnaim shvurim, 2 that were broken. Dirshu the pasuk says, "Asher shibarta v'sam devar," that you broke them and you put them in iron. Haluchas hayu kol echad ve'echad orkan shisha, and the luchas were each 6 tvachim long. Shish tvachim. V'rachban shlosh tvachim, and the width was 3 tvachim. Tain arkan le'rachba shel aron. If you put the 6 tvachim of the length of the luchos along the 7.5 tvachim of the aron, nishtar sham tefachim echza. It comes out that there is a delta between 6 and 7.5. And then etzva l'kos mikan. And again, the width of the actual box of the aron is only 1 tefach, is one etzba, 1 finger breadth wide. Comes out because we can. Chatzi tefach mikan v'chatzi tefach mikan l'shil, which leaves you with half a tefach on either side in order to be able to wiggle the luchos in and out. In order to be able to move, why would you ever need to move the luchos in or out? So Kanievsky notes that it must be that every now and then the aron needed to be fixed up. There was a better kabais for the aron, had to do repairs on the aron, check the condition of the aron, and you would have needed to remove the luchas for that. I don't think that we have many stories anywhere in Chazal about them taking the luchas out of the aron for repair, but that Rucham Kanievsky and the Pnei Moshe explaining that. Okay, says the Gemara. Now that we've explained the dimensions of the luchas vis-a-vis the aron according to the 2 opinions, now the Gemara is going to ask the question: how did B'Tzalel make the aron? Rabbi Chanina explains. Shalosh tevas also. He made it out of 3 boxes. 2 gold boxes on the outside and on the inside, and 1 wooden box on in the middle, meaning the middle box was wood. Venasan shel zav b'shel eitz, and then he put the golden box into the wooden box, v'shel eitz v'shel zav, and then the wooden box into the big golden box, v'tzipo, and he covered the rim of it with gold, meaning then the top of it was where the wood was, so that is all covered out in gold. The pasuk says, you have to cover it with gold on the inside and the outside. Then why does the pasuk says you should cover it? To include that upper rim that also needs to be, meaning the iron is the wood. It has a gold box on the outside, a gold box on the inside, and then a rim to cover the. There's no wood available. No wood is going to be visible at that point. That is the opinion of Rabbi Chanina. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Shimon Lakish says no. Remember, Rabbi Shimon Lakish holds that the iron was much thinner. It was only a finger breadth wide. Says Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Teva achas also v'tzipo. Now there was only one wooden box. What did they do? They coated it in gold. That's what it means. Teva achas asav tzivah. That it was a gold box, and then it was dipped. It was a wood box that was like dipped into gold. That's how it sounds. The other pasuk says, "V'tzipisa oisai zahav tahar mibayis miklos." You have to cover it with silver and gold. With gold on the inside and the outside. Now the Gemara is going to challenge that. Hold on a second. You're saying that you have a wooden box and you just dip the whole thing up. That doesn't make sense. What does the pasuk then mean when it says you should cover it? Titzapen. What are you then going to cover? It's all covered. It says no. No. The way that it was made was, it was made out of boards. You have wooden boards, and the iron was not made as a box, and then it was dipped in gold. It was, and there's two sheets, yeah, but it seems to be, at least according to the Korban Eda, that the way to understand is that what they did was they made each board of the iron, meaning with whatever the bezels and the edges or whatever it might have been, and then they dipped each board in gold, and then between each board there was gold, meaning that's what it means titzapenu, inside and outside of every board. So each board was wood, and then that wood was dipped in gold. Now gold plated, and then it was constructed into an iron, which makes it much thinner. It was only a finger breadth wide. Says the Gemara. Now we get to how the luchas were written. This is exciting. What did the luchas look like? Says Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel says, 5 of the Aseret Dibros were on one of them. Constructed, right? 5 here and 5 here. The Rabbanan disagree. The Rabbanan Amri Asara Aluch Zeh, Asara Aluch Zeh. There were all of the Aseret Dibros, all 10 were written on each of them. On each of them, 2 luchos. I mean, it was redundancies. Each of the luchos had all 10 of the Dibros. Although the pasuk says, "V'yagid lahem es brisa asher tziva eschem la'asais aseres hadvarim." That the pasuk tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people that Hashem told you His covenant that He commanded you. These 10 things, Sarah al luach zev, Sarah al luach zev, 10 on this one and 10 on that one. I mean, it was all 10 on each of them. And they're learning that out of the pasuk. I think the limit is over here. How does that tell you that it was 10 on each? Because the pasuk ends with v'ichteveim al shnei luchos avanim, and he wrote them on 2 stone tablets. So aseres hadvarim v'ichteveim al shnei luchos avanim, that he wrote all 10 of them on those 2 stone tablets. Okay. Says the Gemara, there is a third opinion. And we're going to see 4 opinions in total. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, Esrim al luach zeh, 20 luchos were on one, Esrim al luach zeh, and 20 on the other one. How do you get 20? There were only 10. Says the Gemara, Dirshu avanim, shnei luchos avanim, That's the limit. It was written on 2 stone tablets. Okay. Esrim al luach zeh, ve'esrim al luach zeh, v'ichteveim, they were written on the 2 luchas havanim. What's the limit here? It seems to be that on each side of each of the tablets, there was the entire list of the Aseres HaDibros. And then we have the opinion of Rabbi Simai, the 4th opinion, Rabbi Simai, Omer, Arbaim al luach zeh, v'arbaim al luach zeh, Dirshu, mizeh u'mizeh kesuvim, which comes out to tetroiga. It means 40 luchos on each side of each of the luchos. All of the Aseres HaDibros were written, which means tetroiga, that it was a fourfold thing from the word tetra. It was a four-sided document. Now, it's interesting to note that Chazal also tell us that each of the, you could see through each of the luchos because the writing was all the way through. So, because the mem and the samach, the middle of them was omid benes, which means that even though the luchos were fully engraved all the way through, according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Yochai and the opinion of Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Chanania ben Rabbi Simai, it meant that it was effectively a 4-dimensional object, meaning every side you looked at it, you could look all the way through it, even though that doesn't make any physical sense, at least in 3 dimensions. So maybe that's what the Gemara means with tetroga. It was 4-dimensional. Chananya ben Achi, I don't think that's literally what it means, but I suppose it's fun to say. Chananya ben Achi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Chananya, the son of Rabbi Yehuda's brother, said, Bein kol dibur b'dibur, between each of the dibros, meaning between each of the Aseres HaDibros, what was there? Diktukeva osi yasa shel Torah, were all of the details and all of the letters of the Torah. Dirshu, as the pasuk says, memulaim b'tarshish, it was filled like Tarshish. What does it mean? Filled like Tarshish, kiyama rabba, like the great sea, meaning like the waves of the sea. And we'll see that metaphor of the waves of the sea is explained further. It says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Kad hava masi hadena karya, when he got to this verse, this pasuk, hava Amar, he said, Yafel amdeni Chanani ben Achi Rabbi Yehuda. It's amazing what what Chananya, the son of my brother, meaning my nephew, Rabbi Yeshua, my nephew Chananya, the son of Rabbi Yeshua's brother, taught me. Rabbi Yeshua's nephew taught me, which is Mahayama said, just like the sea, Bein Gal Gadol Legal Gadol Golim Ketanim, Bein called Dibur V'Dibur, Dik to Keva Shel Torah. The same way that in the ocean there are big waves and then big waves and then big waves, but in between each of the big waves, little waves, little waves, little waves. So too with the luchos, there were the big waves of the Aseres HaDibros, and between them was all of the information that needed to be filled in between that explained all of these halachas. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Tanchuma, says Rabbi Tanchuma, is Kashas Kumi Rabbi Pinchas? I asked the following Kash in front of Rabbi Pinchas. Ashik Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the following pasuk is going to make sense according to Rabbi Yehuda. V'lo Ashik Rabbi Meir, but it does make sense like Rabbi Meir. How? My time the Rabbi Yehuda, what is the explanation of Rabbi Yehuda? The pasuk says, L'kecha Sefer HaTorah Zeh, v'samta osai mitzad Aaron bris Hashem. According to Rabbi Meir, the pasuk says that you take the Sefer Torah and you put it mitzad Aaron bris Hashem. You put it at the side of the Aaron of the covenant of Hashem. But al date de Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, du Amar, the pasuk is saying, Heichan haya Sefer Torah. So where was the Sefer Torah put? Kamin gluskia asim muchutz. It must have been that they made a box of the Sefer Torah on the outside of the Aaron, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that the Aaron was made out of amos that were 5 tvachim, he doesn't have space. He doesn't have the extra 2 tvachim to put the safe and the width of the box, notwithstanding, he doesn't have enough space at all to put a Sefer Torah inside of it. So what does it mean that you're going to take the Sefer Torah and put it inside of the Aaron bris Hashem? You couldn't have. It must be by a Sefer Torah Nasa B'Seicha that there was an external box that was attached to the Aron that held the Sefer Torah. By a Sefer Torah Nasa B'Seicha. But that still is a problem according to Reb Meir. Meaning, now we understand that it was next, but according to Reb Meir, the pasuk is telling you that the Sefer Torah was put next to the Aron, not inside of it. Meaning the pasuk supports Rabbi Yehuda and disagrees with Reb Meir. So functionally, we weren't sure where the Aron went where the Sefer Torah went according to Rabbi Yehuda. Now we know, but according to Reb Meir, he's against the pasuk. Says the pasuk, "My time to Reb Meir." How does Reb Meir explain this? The pasuk says, "V'nasata es hakaparis al ha'aron milamala." You have to put the kaparis, the cover, on the Aron on top. Ve'ela Aron titenes ha'edus asher tenelecha, and to the Aron you will put the edus that I am giving to you. Now we have a question: what exactly is the edus of this pasuk? Rabbi Yehuda is going to say that the edus means the luchos, easy peasy, but the luchos in it, meaning you're going to put the kaparis on the Aron on top, and in the Aron you're going to put the edus, the luchos asher tenelecha. Al that the Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, do amar ein muktam muchavdar. The way to read it is out of sequence, meaning it's out of order. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it means that really you're going to put the kaparis on after having put the luchas inside. Meaning the pasuk is the other way around. Do amar ein muktam muchavdar, that the pasuk is speaking non-chronologically. Ella, but how would you rather understand this? And into the Aron, you are going to put the edus that you are, that I'm going to give to you. And then you put it afterwards. And then you put the kaparis on top, the lid that has the kruvim, you're going to put that on top afterwards. So the pasuk is switched around. Reb Pinchas b'shem Reb Shimon Lakish, according to Reb Pinchas, in the name of Reb Shimon Lakish, the Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Moshe, was given to him as white fire that was written into it, inscribed inside of it, black fire. This is the fire, the Torah's fire. Muvleles ba'esh, it's mixed with fire. Chatzuvim eish, it is carved out of fire. And the sunim eish, it is given from fire. Dichsiv, miminoi eish das lam. From his right hand is the fire of his das, not das, but das, which is the fire of his law, his Torah. That is the fire of the Torah, and that is how the Torah was given. According to Reb Meir, just to review, according to Reb Meir, where the pasuk says "V'nasata es hakaparis ala aron milamala ve'ala aron titenes ha'edus asher ten lecha," that refers to the Sefer Torah, and the edus, according to Rabbi Yehuda, means not the Sefer Torah, but instead it means the luchas, and then the pasuk is out of order because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Moshe the Sefer Torah, Lichara, well after the luchas. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will continue next time with the Mishnah at the bottom of Tes Vav, Tes Zayin Meves, and everybody, please God, should have a beautiful day.